10 days after disclosing that he had AIDS, rap singer Eazy-E lost his fight against the disease. The rapper, 31, passed away in a Los Angeles hospital last night. How could a well-known performer like Eazy-E die just 31 days after being admitted to the hospital? He claimed not to know how he had AIDS and was admitted to the hospital last month for what he believed to be asthma. The death certificate verified pneumonia, and the doctors diagnosed advanced stage AIDS. Brought on by AIDS. It wasn't until he was admitted to the hospital last month due to respiratory issues that Wright discovered he had AIDS. However, such figures don't fully account for everything. In a matter of weeks, a condition that typically lasts for years came to an end. Right in the hospital, there was a hasty wedding. In an instant, control of a record label worth millions of dollars was transferred. He wasn't sure whether he would survive, so he got married in the hospital. Many years later, Suge Knight, his fiercest opponent, suggested using an HIV-infected needle to end a life. They released this new product, which is constantly being sold. They have this item to call, they draw blood from an AIDS patient, and they use it to shoot you. This was no longer a straightforward medical narrative. In the history of hip-hop, this was the biggest enigma. And the question remains unsolved after over 30 years. Eazy-E was taken to Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles on February 24, 1995, due to acute coughing and dyspnea. He thought it was just a common respiratory issue, but medical studies revealed that his immune system had been nearly obliterated, according to the Los Angeles Times. Pneumocystis carinii was shown to be the cause of the sickness, a common opportunistic infection in people with AIDS. He seemed to be uninformed that he had contracted the AIDS virus when he was admitted 3 weeks ago with respiratory issues. Eazy-E's condition deteriorated within days of being admitted to the hospital. He was nearly unable to breathe on his own by the beginning of March and needed medical assistance. Attorney Ron Sweeney gave a press conference in Hollywood on March 16. "There is something positive that will reach out to all of my homeboys, and I would like to turn my own problems around." He revealed Eazy-E's parting note there. Eazy-E made his public admission of having AIDS in this statement, and it was extensively reported by prominent publications like Newsweek and The Washington Post right away. The hip-hop culture was rocked by Eazy-E's statement. It eliminated the long-standing taboo around HIV/AIDS and made many fans and artists face an illness that is heavily stigmatized in society. Eazy-E died at Cedars-Sinai on the evening of March 26, just 10 days later, at the age of 30. The following day, the funeral took place in Whittier's Rose Hills Memorial Park. The Los Angeles Times reports that MC Hammer, DJ Yella, and numerous other celebrities were among the over 3,000 attendees. Although the event was seen as solemn, the absence of Dr. Dre and Ice Cube, who were previously partners in the N.W.A., exposed unhealed wounds. It was a seismic event for the media. The passing of Eazy-E was deemed a wake-up call for gangsta rap by Newsweek. A sickness that many people believe is unrelated to the hip-hop industry ended the life of an artist who was once regarded as an unbeatable force in musical competitions. A disease that typically takes years to progress to its end. What caused it to kill him in just a few weeks? Furthermore, it is far more difficult to accept Eazy-E's death as a medical catastrophe when one considers the contradictory circumstances around him, such as power battles in the music industry and the arguments over his estate in the immediate aftermath of his passing. Complicated suspicions around the tragedy. Eazy-E's death startled the world not only because he died at the age of 30, but also because his disease progressed at an alarmingly fast rate. Medical research indicates that, if treatment is not received, HIV usually takes 8 to 10 years to progress to AIDS. However, Eazy-E's health deteriorated and he died a few weeks after being admitted to the hospital. The public had several urgent questions about this. The doctor who treated him personally, Dr. William Young, once claimed that Eazy-E got HIV from heterosexual sexual activity. He rejected the ideas that AIDS was caused by homosexual relationships or drug use with needles, which were prevalent in society at the time. Nevertheless, the public found it hard to believe that this death was just a medical coincidence due to the disease's very rapid course. The situation around Eazy-E heightened the suspicions. With the introduction of N.W.A, Ruthless Records, the label he co-founded with Jerry Heller in 1987, had previously ruled the industry. However, due to financial disagreements, Ice Cube quit the group just 2 years later, publicly accusing Heller and Eazy-E of rights manipulation. Dr. Dre also quit Ruthless in 1991. This time, Suge Knight, later the notorious head of Death Row Records, was accused of using force and threats to push Eazy-E to end the contract, which led to a violent exit. In a 1993 interview, Eazy-E himself recalled that Knight had used violence to accomplish his objective. These disputes extended beyond court cases. Public musical altercations broke out between them, most notably the 1993 song Real Motherfuckin' Gius, in which Eazy-E openly attacked Dr. Dre and Suge Knight. Because of this stressful situation, many people thought that the rivalries inside the rap industry were inextricably linked to Eazy-E's death. Examining what transpired right after his death only served to heighten suspicions. Eazy-E married Tamika Woods in the hospital on March 14, 12 days before his death. Tamika became the successor and assumed complete control of the brutal recordings in accordance with his wishes. This quick shift of riches and power caused criticism right away. Tamika and lawyer Ron Sweeney allegedly altered the will to deny the Wright family their rights, according to a complaint filed by Mike Klein, Eazy's former manager. In April 1995, a UPI piece described the legal dispute between Mike Klein, Tamika, and Eazy's parents. The argument took a while to resolve. A few years later, Lil Eazy-E, Eazy-E's oldest son, went to court to publicly accuse his stepmother of denying the children their inheritance. The public was further led to assume that Eazy-E's death was not only a medical matter by these protracted court disputes. Suspicions were further stoked by testimonies from people close to him in addition to documents and lawsuits. In a 2011 documentary, his close friend and fellow N.W.A. member DJ Yella revealed that he thought the hospital wedding was strange because Eazy-E was almost unconscious at the time. The public was perplexed and contradicted by the idea of a rap artist getting married while near death and dying a few days later. In addition to the swift transfer of power and a funeral that attracted thousands of people, the public received other evidence that Eazy-E's death was not only due to AIDS. Eazy-E's death became more complicated than a medical tragedy due to the power and wealth struggles. However, it was his erstwhile adversaries' public remarks that really turned this event become the subject of innumerable conspiracy theories. Persistent conspiracies. Every conversation revolved around Suge Knight, the Death Row Records tycoon who had previously been at odds with Eazy-E during the most volatile period in hip-hop history in the 1990s. When Live Night appeared on Jimmy Kimmel in 2003, he made a startling declaration. "You don't need a gun if you want to kill somebody," he declared in front of a televised audience. "Just an HIV-infected syringe of blood." Then he said, "Eazy-E," and laughed. The link to Eazy-E's death 8 years prior was immediately apparent, even without explicitly stating it. The comment gained rapid traction and was one of the catalysts for the Eazy-E's meteoric ascent, which was infused with HIV conspiracy theories. Suge Knight continued to work in the ensuing years. He kept making the same insinuations from 2015 till 2024. His ambiguous, half-serious, half-joking remarks sustained the widespread belief that Eazy-E had been purposefully poisoned. Many people saw Suge Knight as the main suspect because of his violent background and his history of open hostility with Eazy-E, even though no hard proof ever came to light. Ice Cube responded to these allegations by speaking out as well. Cube was directly questioned in 2023 on Logan Paul's impetuous podcast about the possibility that Eazy-E received an HIV injection. He gave a direct response. "Although I don't think Suge Knight gave Eazy-E an AIDS injection, I don't rule anything out." The beef was fierce at the time, and Suge is a weird guy. Cube emphasized that the hypothesis was absurd and unfounded, but he acknowledged that the aggressive tone of early 1990s rap allowed for any scenario. The Mysterious Death of Eazy-E, a documentary made by his daughter E.B., brought the mystery back into the spotlight in 2021. Right, as well as WETV. In 4 separate episodes, E.B. and her mother, Tracy Jernigan, spoke with a variety of witnesses and Eazy-E's associates, including medical professionals and Bone Thugs in Harmony. One of the gang members, Lazy Bone, hinted that foul play might have been at play. The idea that Eazy-E might have gotten HIV from a tainted acupuncture needle was also discussed in the series. The documentary sparked more discussion even though it provided no clear conclusion. One particular detail that E.B. was that there was no proof of HIV infection in Eazy-E's wife or kids. This appeared to be a gap that suggested poisoning to many viewers. However, medical professionals pointed out that this fact could not be used as evidence because it is quite feasible for a partner or children to not get HIV from an infected person. The reason this conspiracy idea persisted for so long, according to Vice magazine's 2015 investigation, was not just Suge Knight's comments or the anomalies surrounding the will, it also represented the cultural context of hip-hop at the time. Numerous tragedies, like the 1996 assassination of Tupac Shakur and the 1997 murder of the infamous B.I.G., characterized the 1990s. The public found it difficult to believe that Eazy-E, a well-known and influential character, had just passed away from sickness in a setting where artist fatalities were frequently linked to violence and conspiracy. Social media has only made the theory more popular in recent years. Clips of Suge Knight's remarks and past interviews with Layzie Bone have been extensively circulated on Twitter since 2020, garnering millions of views and comments. The idea that something evil was responsible for the tragedy was further stoked by a number of viral videos in 2024 that featured Layzie Bone reiterating the assertion that Eazy-E had received an HIV injection. These videos served as stand-in proof for younger generations who were not there at the 1995 events, strengthening the belief that Eazy-E's death was the product of a conspiracy. What started off as a medical incident has been the subject of unending conjecture. Although the HIV injection idea has never been validated, its tenacity illustrates how the general public and the hip-hop culture understand the death when the reality is too hard to comprehend. People are more inclined to believe in conspiracy than in fact. And that is the reason why, almost 30 years after his death, the mystery surrounding Eazy-E has persisted. Eazy-E's death has been the subject of innumerable hypotheses, ranging from Suge Knight's vague comments to suspicions that have been spreading in the community. However, a harsh and unalterable reality emerges when one looks back at medical and judicial documents. The hard truth behind it all: after a plethora of ideas and stories have been developed surrounding Eazy-E's death, the official documents reveal a straightforward and harsh reality. The cause of death, pneumonia associated with AIDS, was explicitly stated on his death certificate, which was signed by Dr. William Young. This conclusion was also mentioned in reports from the Los Angeles Times and UPI in March 1995, which emphasized that there was no proof of criminal activity or outside intervention. Many people found it inconceivable that a disease that was thought to endure for years could kill someone in a matter of weeks. However, specialists clarified that this development was completely feasible. HIV can linger in the body for years without evident signs. The immune system can quickly deteriorate after the illness progresses to AIDS and is not identified and treated, leaving the patient extremely vulnerable and perhaps dying within weeks of diagnosis. Such a sharp drop is typical of the last stages of AIDS, according to the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, or CDC. According to a 2015 Vice investigation, it is also scientifically untenable to believe that HIV is injected into the body, as Suge Knight once suggested on television. There is very little chance of an immediate infection through that route because the HIV virus cannot survive for very long outside the body. According to these scientific claims, the story of the HIV needle is probably still just anecdotal and lacks enough supporting evidence to be a logical explanation. 10 days before to his passing, on March 16, 1995, lawyer Ron Sweeney read Eazy-E's formal statement to the media. In it he said frankly, "I have AIDS. It wasn't from shooting drugs that I got it. I contracted HIV in the same way that anyone can through intercourse. I'm not gay. I want to convey to my fans, check yourself. 6 different mothers have given me 7 children. Maybe success has come too easy for me." It was a direct declaration with no evasion and perhaps the most honest message he ever left behind. For the hip-hop community, long accustomed to seeing Eazy-E as an invincible icon in music and conflict, his public acknowledgement of AIDS was something no one expected. It was both an admission and a warning to his fans, especially in an era when HIV/AIDS was still shrouded in stigma and prejudice. Even though Eazy-E's statement was clear enough, many within the hip-hop community still struggled to accept it. For the public of that time, the idea that a wealthy, powerful artist, a man who embodied gangster rap, could die from AIDS was beyond imagination. Instead of facing reality, many chose to believe in conspiracy theories, that he was poisoned, that his death was the product of hatred or scheming. Posy magazine in a 2023 article argued that Eazy-E's death forced hip-hop to confront HIV/AIDS directly. But the heavy stigma surrounding the disease in American society at that time made it difficult for the public to accept the truth. Instead, they clung to conspiracy theories as a form of avoidance because the cruel reality was this: AIDS could strike anyone, even a rap star at the height of his fame. The brutal truth, as Eazy-E himself said in his final statement, was that it ain't cool. It was not only a farewell from an artist to his fans, but also a reminder of human fragility, showing that fame, wealth, and power cannot shield anyone from illness. The controversial journey of inheriting a legacy. After Eazy-E's death, the question was not only about the cause of his passing, but also about who would inherit the legacy he left behind. According to his will, Tamika Woods, his newlywed wife of just 12 days, became the legal heir to Ruthless Records. From then on, she not only managed the company, but also engaged in numerous lawsuits to protect the brand. One of the most notable cases occurred in 2017 when Tamika filed a lawsuit against Eric Darnell Wright, Eazy-E's eldest son, claiming he had illegally used the Ruthless Records name and brand. These disputes demonstrated that the value of Eazy-E's legacy remained both economic and symbolic, continuing to be contested years after his death. Despite the controversies, Eazy-E's influence on music is almost universally acknowledged. As a founding member of N.W.A, he helped create Straight Outta Compton, 1988, album that sold over 3 million copies and became a milestone in hip-hop, taking gangster rap beyond the streets of Compton to a global stage. After his death, Bone Thugs and Harmony, the group Eazy-E had signed and mentored, released E! 1999 Eternal 1995. The album quickly surpassed 4 million copies sold, serving as proof of Eazy-E's sharp instincts and vision in discovering and nurturing new talent. That influence extended to later generations of rappers. Eminem and Kendrick Lamar, two of the most impactful rap artists in the world, have repeatedly referred to him as the godfather of gangsta rap. To them, Eazy-E was not only a trailblazer, but also a symbol of boldness, someone unafraid to speak the harsh realities of the streets. Eazy-E's story, and that of N.W.A, was brought to the big screen in the film Straight Outta Compton, 2015. The movie not only reintroduced the group's history to younger audiences, but also became an opportunity for those who once had deep conflicts with him, Ice Cube and Dr. Dre, to indirectly revisit the memory of their former teammate. Although both were absent from the 1995 funeral, the film helped close that gap and restored Eazy-E's rightful place in hip-hop history. Eazy-E's impact went beyond music. His death became a catalyst for social efforts connected to HIV/AIDS awareness. In 1995, a fundraising concert against AIDS was organized, gathering many artists to call for public awareness. Years later, NPR noted that Eazy-E's public disclosure of his illness marked a turning point, forcing an entire generation of hip-hop to confront HIV/AIDS directly. Before that, the disease was often regarded as distant or confined to marginalized groups. His daughter, E.B. Wright, continued preserving this legacy by producing the documentary, The Mysterious Death of Eazy-E 2021. Although the film explored suspicions surrounding his passing, E.B. also emphasized the importance of education and raising awareness about HIV/AIDS. This was seen as part of an effort to turn Eazy-E's legacy into a social tool rather than leaving it only within music. Bone Thugs and Harmony in numerous interviews also recalled that Eazy-E had been stigmatized for having AIDS. They insisted that his legacy should not be remembered through his death, but through his career and what he contributed to hip-hop. To them, Eazy-E was the one who opened doors and created opportunities for an entire generation of artists. Eazy-E's death carried a message that extended beyond music. It reminded the world that fame, money, or power cannot protect anyone from health risks. HIV/AIDS does not discriminate by status, profession, or background. And Eazy-E, through his final statement, left a warning to his fans: take care of your health and act responsibly for yourself. Eazy-E's music may live on, but human life is not immortal. His greatest legacy is not only the classic rap tracks, but also the lesson of human fragility in the face of illness. Nearly 3 decades later, that lesson remains just as powerful. Do you think this was the tragedy of fate or an unresolved conspiracy? Share your thoughts and don't forget to subscribe to our channel to continue exploring other unanswered stories.